In this video, we'll start going through our images one by one to do any additional editing. From the last video, we set it off to do some automatic editing using our actions. It looks like it took from 12 to 1, so about an hour that our computer was just sitting there working for us. And now we can come in and start editing these. So I'm going to load in 10 images, and this might take a second for it to load. So I'm going to pause the video while all of these images load in. All right, so here we are. This first one here, this is a blooper. We don't really have to worry about editing this one much further. But, so we'll close out of that. No worries there. Let's come in and see how we're going to do some of these. So I want to test, see if maybe even a replacement up here. Let's see. I'm going to duplicate everything, merge it down, Control E, and let's see. I'm not sure if Photoshop's that popped up on a different monitor. Let me pull it over there. I'm not sure if that'll work real well. I might be able to work with this. Okay, so let's give a nice blue sky. And we'll want to be a little brighter. Something like that. Okay, so even though we duplicated that and we that's actually pretty good to work with up here. So even though we duplicate all that, we're going to output to a new layer, and that way we have all of this in a group that we can continue to tweak. So if we wanted to change the brightness, right, we could do that. We can change the sky itself. It gives us this mask. We have the little edge lighting that we can do. So really, really cool that we can come in here and do that. And now for these, so again, these are mostly going to be, full body like this, right? But we're going to come in and actually, let's do this. Let's come in again. So there's nothing on this layer here. It's just an empty layer for doing some cleanup. But I do want this on its own, everything on its own layer again, so that I can come in and do a select subject and then see if it's going to give us a good mask really, really quickly without having to worry about that. There we go. So now we kind of have them on the foreground, even though we have this mask here that it's figuring out too. But we can, I'm going to shift. Let's try this and see how this looks. Actually, yeah, undo that. I'm going to leave this alone for now, and we're going to come back to that if we need it. But I want to get rid of some of this on them directly from this mask here. So just my flow. And my brush, there we go. So I want to get rid of some of that sun hue. I'm sorry, the sky that we're getting there. So just painting some of that out, the mask. Because you can see how it's affecting her skin. Let me shift my hardness here. I don't want it to be so hard. And again, see, this is 33%. I mean, at 100%, I could get super, super close if I wanted to, and really make sure I get this mask to be perfect. But it depends on the use. And this is something where, it helps to know what your outcome's going to be. In this case, these shots are really for the fun of it. They're not going to be printed at all. It's going to be social, Instagram, things like that. So for the most part, that means they're going to be compressed down. They're not going to be print quality. You don't have to worry about that. So there's really no need to do that significant amount of editing. I'm not going to be using these for any sort of a composite or anything like that. So we don't have to spend a ton of time on them. And that's just something to always be aware of. If you don't have to spend time on it, you can spend the time on something else. By all means, do that. So I always try to find ways to work faster and improve things, which is why I have the computer automatically do, some layers of edits to begin with to get some consistency across all of the edits, lay those down. It's why I don't, I guess I'm doing it now, but I don't normally come in and get this close with all of the masks. So let's zoom out a little bit and just do this on a bigger scale, getting rid of a lot of it on her. And that's where I probably could pull in that subject mask that I created. So let's select that. And yeah, I've got that. So remove her along the edges there, or remove the sky there. Okay. Pretty good. And on him, probably some of the same. Yeah, so you can see we're removing some of that tint. So that comes in from the sky replacement there, which I like that it does that, because depending on the image, sometimes you want that tint because, the sky, the light from the sky is going to be affecting and casting the colors there. But in this case, don't really need that. Okay, so I'm good with that there, but I am going to do some more. Oops, I want to do a curves. Let's pull in a curves here. And I want to add a little bit more contrast to this. And we can start to see right here. So let me actually hold down Alt and then get to that. We can see our mask and just fill this in real quick, the parts that we're missing. There we go. So you can see that. Oh, right here too. Let's just see what that looks like if we do the whole thing. I could fill that, but whatever. I already have my paintbrush active. Okay. Yeah, I'm happy with that for the most part. There are some other things I want to do to this. So with the sky, I'm going to duplicate this, delete the layer mask, and then flatten this down to its own layer here. And let's turn this into a smart object. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to basically blur this, but I want to turn it into a smart object. So that way, when I come in, I have the ability to have more control over that. Nope. Again, popped it off on a different monitor. And we can see, and you can see it's blurring this, but I want to blur it because really the sky in that background wouldn't be in focus. We're focusing on the people in front, and that's okay. We lost that, but we'll go ahead and let's see. Do I get a mask for that? Oh, good. I do get a mask for that. Okay, so let's take this and we're going to apply this onto our... There we go. Great. So we got a mask for that. We don't have to paint that. That's perfect. In fact, could add a little bit more to that. Yeah, we're going to leave that as is. Okay. Okay. So with that, the next thing really I want to do is this little bit there is a little bit distracting, but this video is starting to run a little bit long. Let's go ahead and do that, and then we'll start editing some other stuff in our next one. But this one's requiring quite a bit of edits here. So what we're going to do, we're going to take this select subject that we have. It looks like we have a pretty good mask. I'm not sure about the hair. Have to fix that, but we can take maybe... Actually, you know what? We might be able to extend this down there. I wonder what that would look like. Let's try that. So we have the sky over the whole thing. But what if we were to, again, take our sky, let's duplicate it. And this, mostly because this is just a test. And I just want to be able to delete the whole thing if I need to. So let's take this. We have our sky up here. We can turn that off. And what we're going to focus on is down here. So I'm going to remove this. And that's not down there at all, so I don't care about that. But we want the sky to be placed down here. Now, let's add our mask. And see, we might need to select these. Let's see if I can, on this here, see if this will let me select just that with the magic wand. We're just doing this rough. We'll need to clean this up if we need to, but then Alt backspace or Option backspace to fill that in. So looking for this here mostly. That might actually work. Let's do that. Let's go down this path. See how this goes. So right around here, we can start to see the buildings here. So obviously the sky is not going to be there. But let me select this again. And I want that mask saved. So I'm going to create a new layer. This is just for the wires. Just to save that so I don't have to reselect that every time. That way I can come in, select this, and then, oops, I want that inverted, my bad. Control I, invert that. So now I can just select this and then paint without having to worry about that. So we'll have this kind of fade. It might look a little weird to have the cloud and stuff there right now, but we'll work on blending it a little bit better. It's going to be in the background anyway. I just don't like how white that is and blown out that is. When you can't really, when it's not up here anymore, I don't want it to be down there either. So we can get rid of all this here. We've got other bits on that. Get rid of all of it here, actually. There we go. Don't need any of that. That little bit over there, you know, actually, I might pull that back in. Control Shift I to invert there. Might pull just a little bit in here on this. Again, these don't have to be pixel perfect because we know that we're doing this for social. I'm trying to get rid of a lot of the distracting elements there. Okay. So with that, now we can take, oh, we've got a little bit down here too. What does that look like without it? I'm okay without that down there. It'd be kind of strange to have the sky down there when you see the buildings here. So we're going to remove that. And then I'm just going to run some tests here. I'm going to duplicate this, merge it, and see what it is I like best. Probably a multiply that we lower a lot. And we can even add our blur if we want to. So you can see the blur there. Nope, I'm gonna get rid of that. So this is where I'm kind of playing around and testing. And this is part of the, one of the things I wanted to do with this channel is being able to share, like, just going through the thought process, you know, in a more structured curriculum. I would walk through all of this and I'd figure all of it out. Like, what am I going to do? How am I going to do this? What do I like best? But with this channel being a lot more casual, a lot more relaxed, I get to just do that with you here and just figure all this out. So let's do our curves, and we're going to bring this back just so we can see what it's going to look like. So we have that, and you can kind of see how we're starting to just add a little bit of subtleness to it, right? It's not going to be a lot, but I don't want it to be perfectly or entirely white. And some of this with the clouds, let me see if the sky, oops. It's selecting this one here. That's not the sky. This is the sky I want. Remove from the mask. Let's go ahead and move this. I want to see if there's an area of this. It's mostly just blue, maybe a little bit, but like, I don't want to see the cloud down there. It's okay up here because it's a little bit up, but I don't want the cloud way down there. So we've got that. Oops. I've got that. And then can kind of hide some of that. Where else is that coming in? Select this again. Oh, it's because there's actually blue back here. I thought that was part of the sky. That's actually part of the building. Actually, we could use that to our advantage. And then have this. So I'm going to have this purposely be a little more structured, so it's going to look like the building. And then, but I don't want it to be where the wire is because that's going to be a little more obvious. Or it's going to be hidden. It's not going to be quite as obvious. I want it to be more obvious that this is a building back here because we have the buildings and we have that there. And so it looks a little more structured there, but it wouldn't go along with the wire. That doesn't make sense. So we're going to have it be just a little tip there, just a little edge. There we go. Something like that. So just a little bit of an illusion to sell that we've got that it's a building back here. And rotate, make it just a little bit easier to paint this. Okay, that's pretty good. Let's try that and see how that looks. So you can see it's structured, but then it shows that there's sky back there, and then that's on top there. So I like that. Let's now do an overall, a little bit more overall here. On everything. And that helps kind of solidify some of these edits in there. Got that. I wonder, actually, if we were to take this, does that sky, no, okay, that's not going to work. So let's take this sky here, the original image, and we'll get rid of this. We're going to add a little bit more to this, but I want to apply this. I need to turn this into a smart object. I just right click smart object. Now I can take this blur and apply this blur to it. We want to add the blur basically. Hold down Alt and then drag it over to copy that. Now I can completely get rid of this. And in this group is where we're going to paint some of this back in. Which one is that mask? It's this one. Yeah, that's what's controlling all that. So let's just copy this mask. And then we can get rid of everything up here. Don't need any of that. So select all that, remove that. Oops, my things are inverted from what I thought. And I don't need, this is the only part that I really want. We'll let that blend, we'll figure that out. But all this stuff here, we'll get rid of all that. Oops, I always hit the wrong one first. Okay, and then we had on this is the blurred sky. Did we multiply that? We must have. That's what it kind of looks like, doesn't it? Get that a little bit darker. There is this little bit here that might be a little too much. There we go. Darken that just a little bit, just so it's not quite as obvious. And then this one, we will it's this layer. Yeah, okay. So it's this one here that we're going to want to edit. So let's take, this has our, actually, we have that, don't we? Where we just have them over top of it. We could use that. We might be able to use that. I'm trying to decide how I want this part, or which mask I want this to be a part of. Let's just go ahead, remove this. Until there's that obvious line. Oops. And then we'll come back in and paint that back in, just so we knew where that was. Turn the hardness down, flow down, and paint this back in right up to the edge. Right there. I'm using a little bit lighter. I do have my pen pressure turned on. That's super soft flow around hair. It requires more painting, but you get better variance, which is what you would expect dealing with hair. There we go. Just a quick, and again, you can see I'm still at 33, so I'm not zoomed in all the way. If I was doing this for print or if I was doing this for a major project, I'd make sure to spend more time on getting the masks all perfect and everything. If I was doing a composite or something like that, I probably would too. But for something like this, I mean, I guess I'm compositing in the sky, but it's pretty simple composite here. So let's take this is everything as a copy. Let's take this. This is just going to be just some hair, and we will multiply it because it's white here in the actual image that's this here. And then we should just be able to paint this in to fill in some of that volume on the hair. You can see how it's bringing some of that back. Not too much. Don't want to get the... I mean, there are individual strands of hair, so it's not like there's a lot there. But just a little bit. Just bring a little bit of that back. And then we could even come in some of these areas. It looks like even the camera didn't really pick it up. So I'm going to come in with my little hair pencil here and just paint some of these back in. Really just to hide some of that detail that was lost. There we go. Sample new color, paint it in a little bit. Along here. And I am using my Cintiq, so it's super helpful to be able to, when you're painting, it's tough to do on a mouse, that's for sure. I've had to do it before, but it's tough, and the results are never as good because you don't have your pen pressure. So this is before and then after. You see, we just paint a little that back, but at a full distance, right? So it's super simple or super subtle, but just little bits there. Okay. So overall, I like the way this is going. We might come back to it. Let me come back, put this up here. We might come back to it some later on. I'm not sure. When I do a lot of edits like these, then what I do, I don't want master. I want my blues. What I do a lot of times is to make the core edit and then give it a little bit of time. Go work on other ones, come back, and then if I decide that I want to make some changes again, great. That's something I found really helps, especially with like if you're in a creative rut or something like that. I'm just adjusting just the sky just a little bit. Just you can, there you go. See, super subtle. We might even blend it a little bit more. Yeah, I like that. So it makes it a little bit more subtle. So it actually, there we go. Did we still have that? yeah, that selection. There we go. So we don't get that bleed over onto her. That little bit of hair, that's okay. Just because you're going to expect there's so few pixels there, you're going to expect to see through. There we go. I like that. It blends it a little bit better into the, I mean, it is kind of a little more, actually, you know what? Let's do a little bit in between, about 50%, something like that. There we go. Okay. So I'm liking the way that this is going, this direction that we have here. We can see, we can group, if we group all of this together, this is our sky replacement. So we're adding some of that back in, just helping to not blow it out quite as much. But all right, so I like this direction for this one. This video obviously is super long, took a lot of editing, and we have some other images to edit. So I'm going to go ahead and close this, tell Photoshop to save it, and then we'll end this video. And in our next video, we will move on to the next image. See you there. Before I actually let you go, one thing, as I was saving this, it is too large, probably because we added in all these layers. So that's okay. I am going to save this as a PSB file, which is a Photoshop large document. Just be aware of that. And then, of course, I want it to actually go into our capture folder here. Go ahead and save that. So just be aware of that. That means there will be a TIFF file in there that is the original one, but then the edits that we have, if you get the project files for this, the edits that we have will be in that PSB file because it is so large. All right, let's let this one save, and we'll see you in the next video when we continue editing.